Oh! Hello there. Didn't expect to see you guys in here today, but that's fine. Join in the festivities. The more the merrier, I always say. Good morning, afternoon, evening, nighttime. It doesn't matter what time of day it is. It doesn't matter what position the sun is in the sky, wherever you're at in the world. What matters is today is October 14th. Also, time zones don't matter. Yeah, it's the one day a year where we just agreed unanimously that all over the world, time zones are just inactive on this day. It's October 14th all over the world because today is International Dracule Mihawk Day. Where is he on this? Oh, there he is, Mihawk. He's right above Shanks. There you go. Personally, I find that kind of disrespectful that Mihawk is smaller than Shanks on here. Really, all of these characters should just be Mihawk, right? So sorry about that. Next year for Mihawk Day, I will get a wall scroll that has nothing but Mihawk on it. If I have to sew it or I'll learn how to work a loom, I will crochet a damn Mihawk wall scroll if I so have to. Alright, so yeah, International Mihawk Day. Totally a legitimate holiday, 100% a real thing. You can go check Wikipedia to confirm. Totally not something I just randomly said in a video I made last year on this day and then completely forgot about, and then a couple days ago some fans were like, hey, Mihawk Day's a thing. I'm like, oh yeah, totally. Nope, of course, it's a holiday that we've all been celebrating. It's all been close to our hearts for, well, hundreds of years now. Way back. I want you guys to comment down below and talk about how this holiday has changed your life and what it means to you and your family. Personally, when I was 5 years old, my grandfather gave me my very first Mihawk hat. And, of course, it was something passed down from his grandfather and his grandfather throughout the centuries. The holiday, of course, not a lot of people know this, actually started around 100 AD in ancient Rome. That's right. There was a Roman back then by the name of Augustus Mihawkus that actually started the holiday that we all know and cherish and love today. There's plenty of festivities, plenty of events that I'm sure you're all participating in right now, so thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch me. I hope everybody went to their local katana shop and purchased a katana for their friends and family to show goodwill and good cutting steel for all the people that you love, right? Of course. Then there's there's the wine hiding, the hiding of the wine, where we just take bottles of wine, which is of course Mihawk's favorite beverage, and just hide them all over the planet, and then people just find them. Of course, yeah, that's a thing. So many things with this holiday, so many events. Oh, would you like to join me in some Mihawk Day caroling? I'm sure you would. Let's do a simple one. Let's do one that everybody knows, of course. Oh, Mihawk Day, it's the day we celebrate Mihawk. He has a sword, he's really strong, he's best friends with King Kong. Oh, Mihawk Day, we ship him with Perona. Beautiful, beautiful rendition. I like what you did back there with the acapella thing. You did really good. Then there was that guy with that flute solo that just went crazy. Man, you guys are on this. Okay. So, yeah, Mihawk Day. Celebrate it. Let me know all the ways you celebrate Mihawk Day down below. All right. So, hey everybody, how you doing? This is a thing now. This is a thing. Every October 14th, Barry, we gotta do it. All right. International Mihawk Day. All right. So today, we're gonna be talking about probably one of the most prominent discussed events in the entire story. An event that we literally don't know anything about other than the fact that it happened, but it's something that we as the fans would love to see. I've seen so many theories about this and fan art and how it would have went down. Oda, for the love of God, before this story ends, you need to show us this fight in a flashback or something. Like, I don't even care if it makes any sense, like, thematically. If Oda can't even figure out a way to actually make it work in the story. Like, there could be a moment where Luffy's fighting against Blackbeard, and then out of nowhere, for no reason, Oda's like, yeah, by the way, I'm just gonna give you a 3-chapter mini-arc of where Shanks fights Mihawk. Would you complain about that? Would you complain? I was like, oh, yeah, something completely unrelated, nobody cares, right? Nobody, it doesn't matter, it doesn't revolve back to the fight or anything. So, Shanks and Mihawk had this big epic clash, and, I mean, they're both still alive, so they survived it, of course, but what were the circumstances around that big epic fight that they had? When did it happen? You know, how old were they? Where did it take place in the New World? We knew Whitebeard was present to witness Mihawk and Shanks fight. Whitebeard was there, he talked about it with Shanks when Shanks came on the Moby Dick to talk about recalling Ace, to bring Ace back from chasing, Blackbeard, and Whitebeard's there talking like, oh yeah, I remember your duel with Mihawk. If the rest of the world saw your duel with him, they'd be yapping about it till the end of the century. Now, something else Whitebeard did say in that same conversation, remember, was he says, oh, your duel with Mihawk, so epic, so amazing. And then later on, you came back from East Blue missing an arm. So to imply that his duel with Mihawk happened before he met Luffy at Fuchsia Village and lost an arm. This is also backed up by Mihawk when they meet each other. I think this is at the end of the East Blue. This is actually first mentioned when, Mihawk is no longer interested in fighting Shanks because he no longer has his left arm that he lost, when he was defending Luffy, of course, from the Sea King and everything, the gamble he made on the New World, right? So the fight had to have occurred before Shanks arrived at Fuchsia Village. Now, this is something really interesting because this implies a few things. Number one, Shanks was not a Yonko at this point. Shanks was only 27 years old when he arrived at Fuchsia Village and had the whole interchange with Luffy and missing an arm. He was 27 when that happened, okay? But also keep in mind, I think it was stated that the Red Hair crew was docked at Dawn Island at Fuchsia Village for almost a year before that happened. So when Luffy was 7 years old, Shanks was 27 years old, and then that's when the whole thing with the Sea King, the Lord of the Coast, happened. But if we're dialing back the clock a bit, Shanks first arrived at this island probably when he was around 26, and Luffy was around 6 years old, okay? So that dials it back even further, which means this fight with him and Mihawk had to have occurred even before that. I'm going to assume that the fight happened after Roger's execution, after Shanks left his crew, so I believe Shanks was 14 years old, same as Buggy when Roger was executed. They were like 14, 15 years old when they disbanded at Logtown. Shanks went out to get his own crew. Buggy founded his own crew after that. So I'm going to say, yeah, somewhere probably between the ages of 15 and 26, Shanks and Mihawk had this huge, epic, balls-out melee somewhere in the world that, from Whitebeard's own words, was like, this epic battle. Something that, they would write songs about this for the rest of time. If the world was privy to this brawl, which implies that not a lot of people saw it. I'm sure they felt the effects of the battle. We see large-scale battles in One Piece. You saw what happened when Whitebeard and Roger clashed at that random island. Sent shockwaves probably in 100-mile radius all around the damn place, right? And I don't think that's just because Whitebeard has the Gura mean. It's like the hockey pouring off these two epic warriors was so great. It could be felt, okay. So, it was something like that, but not a lot of people were present during the battle, but Whitebeard was there, maybe some other prominent figures of the era were there to kind of witness it and everything. Maybe some members of the world government watched it, and that's why they made Mihawk a warlord. That makes sense, but this was before even Shanks became a Yonko, because Shanks did not become a Yonko until 6 years before the present storyline, 4 years since, when Luffy left. So, when Luffy left Dawn Island at the beginning of the story, Shanks was already a Yonko for 4 years. Shanks became a Yonko at age 33, okay? So, yeah, this was before even that happened, alright? Now, it was also stated that I think they fought a few times before this. I don't think this big epic brawl that Whitebeard spoke about, their final battle that they had, was the first time they fought, alright? So let's talk a little bit about how they would have met and how they would have originally, started fighting each other. How this whole relationship between Shanks and Mihawk even started, okay? Well, of course, we see images of Mihawk. Oda has drawn him as a kid, as he does with a lot of characters. So here's Mihawk as a kid training in the art of the sword. So we don't know where Mihawk came from or what's the deal with him or anything like that, but we know that at the very young age he was training in the blade, much like Zoro and much like even Shanks, okay? In addition to that, we know about Shanks' childhood. At least the earliest we know is when he was 9 years old. He was already a member of Roger's crew, and then eventually it didn't take him very long to pick up the sword himself and start training with the cutlass. Right now, Shanks' sword is Griffin. We do not know its rank, but I'm just going to assume, considering he's a Yonko, one of the strongest pirates in the entire world, and one of the best swordsmen in the entire world, I'm just going to assume it's a Saijo Owazamono grade sword, just to kind of even out all, because we have 12 of those, and I feel like Oda is probably going to try his damnedest to get all 12 of those known by the end of the story. At least not, maybe not all 12, but maybe a decent number of them, so I don't think anybody will complain if Griffin is a Saijo. Mihawk's blade is, of course, Yoru, also a Saijo. Murakumo Giri was Whitebeard's blade, Saijo Wazamono, so I think it would make sense. Also the fact that, yes, Mihawk might not be a Yonko. Mihawk doesn't really own a lot of territory other than his one island, which he's honestly just kind of squatting at, if we're being honest. And, he doesn't have a crew or anything, right? He's just a guy. He's just a traveling swordsman. But, let me ask you, if Mihawk really wanted it, if Mihawk decided, I want to build up a pirate crew and actually try to actively become a Yonko or become one of the emperors. Do you not think Mihawk would be capable of doing that? No shit, he would be capable of doing that, right? If Mihawk really, really wanted it. If he's like, I'm gonna make a crew, start establishing territories, start fighting other really strong pirates, start actively going after the Marines, increasing my bounty. You know Mihawk, probably within the time span of only a few months, would be considered a freaking emperor if he just really wanted to. But he doesn't want to be, okay? He clashed with Shanks, who, yeah, Shanks wasn't a Yonko at that one particular instant, but he still clashed with freaking Shanks, right? Right, Barry? Right. Okay, calm down. Okay, so anyway, I like to imagine after Roger's death, Shanks, of course, traveled. He traveled around the area. He met Yasopp at one point in the east, but I'm sure he traveled kind of all over the east, kind of gathering up his crew. We know, Ben Beckman comes from the north. Lucky Roo came from the south. We know Yasopp came from the east. So I'm sure for a little while there's a little bit of a time frame where Shanks was just traveling and, gathering up maybe intelligence on the world and gathering up strong crew members, okay, for this red hair pirate crew he's starting up. I like to think right around the same time that was going down, Mihawk was traveling the world already. He was, now keep in mind, Mihawk is 4 years older than Shanks, okay? So right now, Shanks is 39, Mihawk is 43, okay? So around the time that Shanks was 15 years old, traveling the east, freaking Mihawk was already 19, okay? He was like Zoro's age at the beginning of the story. So I can imagine him going out at that point. He's strong. He probably didn't have Yoru yet. Shanks probably didn't have Griffin yet, but they were traveling for different reasons. Mihawk was traveling much the same way that Zoro started off, just to kind of find really strong opponents, and Shanks was actively looking for a crew. Do you see the parallels? Do you see the parallels? Shanks, Luffy, traveling looking for crews. Meanwhile, you got Zoro, who is also traveling around looking for strong opponents, building his way up to fight against the strongest swordsman. You know where I'm going with this? Shanks probably met Mihawk at some point when they were teenagers. They fought. Shanks was probably like, man, you're really strong. Join my crew, Mihawk. And then Mihawk was probably like, no. Okay, well, we're still drinking buddies right here. Hey, let me pour you some sake. It was like, I'm not joining your crew. No, it's fine, but we party, Maybe Mihawk... Is it impossible? Is it entirely impossible that Mihawk could have not joined Shanks' crew for a little while? Maybe. It's possible, right? It's possible. He could have joined Shanks' crew, because it's like maybe they clashed when they were teenagers, and then they're like, you know what? This guy's really strong. Tell you what, I'll join your crew under the condition that whenever I want to have a sparring match with you, you'll agree. And so we can always fight and get stronger and everything, because Mihawk's goal at that point, I don't know if Mihawk left his homeland with the intent of becoming the greatest swordsman in the world. Like whoever the greatest swordsman was at that point, not really sure who it was. Maybe it would have been, well, at that era, no, Rox would have been long dead at that era. Wang Zhi probably also dead or, missing at that point. We don't know if Wang Zhi's actually dead yet. But whoever the strongest swordsman was at that point in the story, maybe Mihawk set out to go fight, like maybe Whitebeard. Maybe it could have been Whitebeard. Who knows? Wouldn't have been Shanks yet, because he was even younger than Mihawk, right? But, I don't think Mihawk would have joined Shanks' crew, but you can't exactly rule it out. There's a lot about their history and their past that we just don't simply know about, and it could have been possible that they joined up, and then for a little while there, Mihawk and Shanks traveled together, and then they had sparring matches, and then maybe one day they finally had this big, maybe I don't want to say an argument, but one day they had the big epic brawl, and maybe Mihawk won. And that's another thing, too, we're going to get into in a minute, like who actually won the fight. So we're going to get into that in a second. But maybe Mihawk won, and he's like, well, I think I'm going to go my own way. I'm going to separate from the crew, and then that's the reason we don't see Mihawk by the time Shanks arrives at Fuchsia Village, because he'd already left at that point, right? It's possible, but I don't like to think that was the case. I like to think they met, they fought, and Shanks extended the offer to Mihawk. Mihawk declined, but they still stayed in touch. They still stayed friends, rivals sort of deal. Kind of like the red-blue relationship from Pokemon. Of course, that's, Shanks has red hair, and Mihawk, maybe Mihawk, well, he has blue gems. He has blue gems on his sword. Maybe maybe Mihawk wore a blue hat or a blue cape back then. Who knows, right? But they stayed in touch, and, you know, Shanks continued his pirate adventure, and every now and then, every couple of months or every few years, once again, Shanks and Mihawk's paths would cross, and they'd be like, it was the same thing that happened with Roger and Whitebeard. Every time they ran into each other in the New World, they'd be like, hey, Roger, you look good. Hey, Newgate, how you doing? Let's fight! Yarg! And then they fought, and it's probably the same thing there. You know, it could have been something like that, where, you know, Shanks is just sailing along, you know, and then Mihawk's little coffin boat's bobbing in the water, maybe like they're in their early 20s at this point, and they see each other like, oh, Mihawk, how you doing, man? Haven't seen you for years. Yes, Shanks, it's been quite some time. I hope you've honed your skills. And then they bust out the swords, and then they fight, and then Shanks is like, man, that was a great fight. Offer's still open, man. You want to join my crew? We're getting pretty badass. And Mihawk's like, nah, that's quite all right. I like the call of the sea on my own whims. Not really sure what that means, bro, but whatever, sure, okay. It might have been something like that, right? But I think it all came to a head, honestly. I think it got to the point when maybe they did establish themselves as really great swordsmen. When Mihawk finally did obtain Yoru. Don't know how that worked. Probably he didn't make it, because these Saijo Owazamono grade swords seem to have been around for a while. And I mean, hey, from what we've heard from Tenguyama Hitetsu at Wano, it's very possible that, like, the Saijo Owazamono grade swords, maybe they can't be built or can't be forged so much as, like, they have to have the status achieved. So, like, you know, you had Kozaburo Shimosuke make Enma. But Enma was not a Saijo Owazamono grade sword. It's maybe Zoro using the blade that Odin used could maybe achieve that status if he uses it to, like, slay Kaido or some shit, right? So, I think Yoru existed long before Mihawk was even born, but by the time Mihawk got it, it was maybe just an Owazamono. It was a highly ranked sword, and it was through Mihawk's exploits. It could have been the battle that he had with Shanks that turned this sword into one of the Saijo. It's totally possible. He achieved that rank through the fight, all right? So, I'm going to assume it probably happened. I like to put this right before Shanks arrived at Fuchsia. I like to think of it because I just want to see as much training as possible from Shanks and Mihawk's end of this. I like to also include a lot of other fights that they had in the intermediate. So if they met when they were teenagers, they clashed a few, and then in their early 20s clashed a little bit more. And let's say 25. Let's say Shanks was 25 years old. So that was a year before he arrived at Dawn Island, and Mihawk would have been 29 at this point, still in the prime of their youth. And that's when they had this big epic fight somewhere in the world. It doesn't have, I mean, you think it would have to be in the New World. Not necessarily. It might have been in the New World. Might have been in Paradise. We don't know where it was at. Whitebeard was present. Maybe some other really strong pirates of the day were present. And Mihawk had Yoru at this point. Shanks had his Griffin at this point. Maybe they were both Owazamonos. And then they clashed, and it was this huge battle. Caused like a freaking emperor ring in the sky. The seas were like being racked with crazy shockwaves as they were just boom, boom. Freaking mountains are getting wiped away in the background. Entire forests are being sliced apart. Like freaking Mihawk. They're on this big forested mountain island. And Mihawk, with just one epic, serious swing of his sword, like deforests the entire damn island at once. And then Shanks goes and then boom, and it just slices the island right down in the middle. That island, whatever island they fought on, could very well not even exist anymore from the damage that they incurred from it. Or there's some random island the Straw Hats might land at in the New World after Wano, and this island is literally like, it's like completely wrecked and ravaged, very much like Punk Hazard. How like the island is split into like different pieces. Or how about this? They land at an archipelago. They land at a group of islands, and they just assume it's a regular archipelago. Like, oh yeah, just a group of islands all clustered together. But then later they find out, oh no, this used to be a real island, but then Mihawk and Shanks came here and fought once, and the entire island literally got diced into cubes. So now we just have like 100 little islands all clustered around the same area. But no, like 20 years ago, this used to be just one big island. It could totally be something like that. That would have been so damn cool. Now, who won? Does it matter? Does it matter? Really? Like, Mihawk wins. He's like, Shanks is still alive, and we don't know much about Shanks' body. Like, we don't see his body. Maybe they have scars and stuff from the conflict. Same with Mihawk. I mean, Mihawk kind of travels around with, like, that low-cut kind of outfit. Not really even low-cut. It's just open, revealing his abs. But who knows? I mean, he might have a scar on his arm or his leg. Not on his back, because, you know, scars on the back are a swordsman's shame. You know, might be something like that. But they look pretty good. They look like they're in pretty good condition, considering they had this huge fight. Shanks even confirmed directly to Whitebeard. He was like, hey, this scar I have on my face, you know, I didn't get this in my duel with Hawkeye. I also didn't get this, you know, from some kind of adventure or something. I got this from Blackbeard, of course. And he's like, oh yeah, I lost my arm on a bet, you know, for Luffy in the you know, the new age of pirates to become king of the pirates, right? So yeah, but we don't really ever see any like serious scars on Shanks's body that might have originated from Mihawk, although they could very well have one. They might have, like, you know, some wounds somewhere on their body that they both inflicted at the same time or something, on one of their arms or some shit. I don't know. But it doesn't really matter who won, and it doesn't even matter if it was a draw. Like, if it was a draw, that would actually have made even more sense. Let's say it was a big epic battle, it went on for days, like a week-long battle where they're just clashing like crazy on this island. Maybe it started off as just a regular sparring match, right? Like, they did that every now and then, they would meet up and they would fight. And then one day, just like any other day, they got together and like, hey, let's have a fight. And Mihawk's like, yeah, check it out, I got this new sword. This is my new blade. I attained it from a world-renowned swordsmith, and I may very well be the one to carry it into greatness. And then Shanks is like, well, check me out. I got a new sword, too. Griffin. And so they're like, okay. And then it starts off as just a regular sparring match. You know, it starts off as like, they're serious, but they're not like deadly serious. They're just like, ha-ha, aha, 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 and it just like continues on like that. And sooner or later, like, the rest of the red hair crew come out, and it's like, Captain, it's been 10 hours. Are you guys still? Boom! Like, okay, I guess you are. And then pretty soon, Whitebeard hears all the racket, and he's like, what's going on over there? Holy crap, Marco, Vista, come out here. Look at this battle. This is amazing. And everyone, they're sitting, I can imagine it's like freaking Monday. It's like the Super Bowl. You know, it's like they sit there and they're like, freaking, it's like, Blenheim, bring the booze. This shit's awesome. You know, the Whitebeard has a front row seat to this crap. All the Whitebeard crew are like, wow, this is crazy. Maybe some other strong pirates of the world are watching it as it's unfolding. Eneru is up in the clouds and he's like, well, wait, actually, let me see what's going on down here. This is epic. And so this fight just rages on for days and days and days and days. How long did Ace and Jinbei's fight last? I think it was like 10 days or like a week they fought. I think Akainu and Aokiji's battle was 10 days. I think Jinbei and Ace's was 7, like a week. Doesn't matter. So long battles in One Piece mostly happen off screen from what we've discovered. So this one's probably no different. This one probably went on for 2 weeks straight. A fortnight of fighting. Yeah, by the time the middle of this fight's happening, Whitebeard's printing out posters. He's just like, the fight that continues on. Come one and all, witness it. You know? So fight continues, and everybody all over the world kind of knows what's happening. I mean, they're not there to witness it personally, but by the time the fight is over, I mean, word freaking spreads, right? And so at the end of the fight, they're both winded, and they're beaten, and they're bloodied, and the island is, like, barely even there at that point. It's like freaking Dragon Ball Super at the end of the Tournament of Power when the entire arena is just a bunch of pebbles floating in the void. That's literally all this is. They're, like, just standing on just random rocks in the ocean, and they're like, all right, I got one more in me. How about you? And he's like, yeah, bring it. And then they just charge at each other, like, shing, shing, and then big epic clash, and they both pass out, and they both get back up, and they're like, all right, call it a draw. And from that day forward, like, Whitebeard, like just silence. The last clash happens, big shockwave, they both kind of fall back, and then just silence. Like, the whole world just goes quiet for a few seconds. And then you got Whitebeard watching this brawl from the deck of his Moby Dick. And he just gets up and he just... and lets out big, thunderous, gura claps that are just heard around the freaking world. Every member of the Whitebeard crew gets up and they clap along with him. Everybody else who happened to be there at the time claps. Freaking Roger comes back. His skeleton comes out of the grave and claps. Eneru's claps, eating apples. Oh, that's pretty good. That was a pretty good fight. Well, back to destroying Bricka. You know, this actually would have happened. Like, let's say this did happen when Shanks was 25. This would have happened. This would have happened like 15 years ago. So that was long. That was well before Eneru destroyed Bricka. But whatever. And it's just this thing where maybe Whitebeard was the one that declared it. He's like, I hereby declare these two men like the greatest swordsmen on the planet. Right, and I declare their swords like officially the highest rank. You know, Mihawk's Yoru is now a Saijo. Shanks's Griffin is now a Saijo. And then the fight ended there, and they went their separate ways. And this even adds a little bit more weight to this when later on, the next time Mihawk sees Shanks, he's missing an arm from the east. And Mihawk is kind of dejected by that because he knows he's never probably going to have a fight that epic ever again. So he's actually kind of a little depressed by that. He's just like, there's no point in fighting you anymore. Even though Shanks with just one arm is still wicked strong. He achieved the rank of Yonko with just one arm. You know Shanks would be strong, but Mihawk like saw him at his absolute peak, his absolute best. And it was like, okay, we're still going to get stronger and we're still going to fight and we're going to have even more epic battle after epic battle. Then Shanks loses an arm and Mihawk's like, it doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, then it's just not fair. I wonder if Mihawk even considered, like, maybe if I cut off my arm, then it would be a fair fight again. And maybe at least a nice little handicap or something, right? Swinging Yoru around with one hand. Not really sure about that. And then at the end of the most recent time we saw Mihawk in the story is when the Warlord system got repelled. And then the freaking Marines are coming to his island. Mihawk's sitting there and he's just like, it's been a while since I've been chased around. He was a little bit excited because he's just like, man, I haven't had a serious fight in forever since Shanks. Maybe if they send 2 or 3 admirals at me, maybe that'll be a good fight. Maybe that'll be something. Clash with Fujitora and Kizaru's little light sword shit. Maybe that'll be something that could, you know, get me pumped up for fighting again. Who knows, right? But yeah, I like to think that's the situation, how the fight went down. Oda, you gotta show it. You gotta show it at some point. I really don't want Mihawk or Shanks to die in this story. I mean, later on, way down the line, we might have a thing where Mihawk dies, and then Zoro has to avenge his master, and then whoever defeats Mihawk, like Shiryu or somebody, Zoro defeats that person and then becomes the greatest swordsman, but not the way that he originally wanted it to be, or to avenge Mihawk. You know, he has a different dream. It's not so much becoming the greatest swordsman, it's more about, defending his master's honor, somebody that Zoro respects. Or you could have Shanks pass away at some point, going up against Blackbeard again, and then Luffy has to, avenge him. So you could still have moments where they pass away. But I mean, I prefer that didn't happen. But during those fights, you could always cut back. Like you could have Shanks and Mihawk team up to fight against this final war, and then during that fight, it flashes back to their epic battle. Like that we need to see that. I mean, come on. Like even more so than Akainu and Aokiji's battle. I want to see this. If I had a choice, let me ask you. That's a serious question. This is a more serious question rather than the Mihawk Day question. If it was up to you, you could either see Aokiji and Akainu's fight in full. Like Oda goes all out. He draws like 5 chapters of it or some shit. Or you could get the Mihawk Shanks fight. Same deal. Oda goes full detail, like 5 straight chapters of just this epic fight. Double page spreads, the color spreads, the whole 9 yards, right? You can either choose one or the two. Which one are you picking? I'm going to go with the Shanks Mihawk fight, 100%. It would be awesome to see Aokiji and Akainu fight, but this has been pumped up since, like, we first got introduced to Mihawk, since we first understood how badass Shanks is. We don't even know how much of a badass Shanks is in full view yet. That's the thing that makes this so exciting, right? So, yeah. Let me know how you feel about this down below, how this fight would have went, where it would have taken place. But I like to think at that point, yeah, that's when they achieve greatness. And Mihawk... Now, one thing you could say is like, well, wouldn't have Mihawk have won? Because doesn't that kind of implicate that he was the strongest swordsman? He's called the strongest swordsman right now. So wouldn't that have indicated that Mihawk would have had to been the one to win? Not necessarily. It could have been a thing where they drawed, but that Shanks was just not interested in the title. He's just like, I mean, I'm a swordsman. I'm a pirate first and a swordsman second. Maybe that was something with Shanks, and then Mihawk just took up the title as the greatest. It doesn't necessarily have to be that Shanks lost and Mihawk won. It could have been a thing where it was a draw, and then Mihawk took the title, and Shanks just didn't care for it very much. He's like, you take the credit for this one. I'm a pirate. I'm not really so much of a swordsman. You have fun with it. Could have been something like that, so don't immediately think that. All right. Well, anyway, thanks for watching, everybody, and happy International Mihawk Day. Let's end out with another tradition. What tradition can we... Oh, I know. Let's read a random word from the Japanese dictionary. Oh, wait, no. Actually, you know what? Hold on a second. Give me a click here, because Mihawk is kind of based on, like, a Spanish swordsman, right? I think, although in the 4Kids dub, I think they kind of give him some kind of, like, French accent for some reason. But whatever. He's based on, like, a Spanish swordsman from the Golden Age, right? So let me look up, like, a Spanish, like, word of the day calendar, and we'll learn a Spanish word together. That's good. We'll do that. All right, so here's a website. Spanish word of the day, October 14th. El Calabozo. Calabozo? El Calabozo. It means dungeon, which kind of a weird word of the day, but that actually works because Mihawk does live in a castle, which I assume has a dungeon. Don't know if he uses it or not. Might just use it as a wine dungeon. Yeah. El Calabozo. Dungeon examples. El prisionero escapó del calabozo mientras el guardia dormía. I apologize to anybody that speaks Spanish. I apologize to anybody that's even, like, learning Spanish in school right now and is probably cringing at that. But that's a tradition of International Mihawk Day. We poorly pronounce Spanish words. So there you go. El Calabozo. That's the Spanish word of the day. It means dungeon. All right. Well, anyway, have a good day, everybody. Happy International Mihawk Day. See you next year. Signing out.